Have you ever felt insecure about your own song lyrics?
I'm addicted.
Try and guess who wrote this.
Too much.
I think I took too much. I'm addicted to your touch. That is Ed Sheeran.
I'm addicted to your touch.
The Ed Sheeran. It's something from his very early work. It's available online and it's a shame. Everyone, even the greatest artists, make mistakes. And the purpose of this video is to show you the 7 deadly sins of writing song lyrics and help you overcome those. And sure, nobody's gonna avoid every mistake, but knowing them is a huge head start if you're just starting to learn the craft. And by the way, I'm Vadusha and I'm the greatest expert in song lyrics in the entire world and maybe even on YouTube. Sin number 1 is using overused cliches. You must have heard those like a million times, like when love is a battlefield, when there's a battle between lovers. Or when the heart is broken, really? Light at the end of a tunnel, crying a river, drowning in tears, burning like fire, climbing mountains for love, being lost without your significant other. Or the idea of that the eyes are the windows of the soul. Or that love is a roller coaster. The trick here is to use better associations, and I have an entire video on that on the channel. To avoid it, the rule of thumb is, heard it before, use it no more. Sin number 2 is, surprisingly, avoiding the cliched phrases. As any other tool, there's no actual rules of how you use them. And if for some reason you need to create a comedic or ironic context, cliches are a huge tool you can use to establish that. You can play on them, you can change wording inside of those, making them fresh again and putting them to a better use. So if you're a beginner, you might want to avoid them. But if you're a pro, cliches are an enormous source of wordplay. Sin number 3 is rhyming forward. This happens when you write a line and you start writing the second line after you've written the first one. This is exactly the way ChatGPT writes lines, and that's why AI lyrics suck. To avoid that, you write the ending first and then you rhyme backwards. You find the idea, you find the clever line, the punchline, a cool metaphor, you put it in the end and then you rhyme backwards to prime for it. Again, first the line, then the rhyme. Sin number 3 is using very superfluous associations, level 1 associations. If you think of a topic and start associating out from it, there's some very common, very widespread associations that you will come up with first. Like if you think Ireland, the country, the associations are most probably leprechauns, green, bear, and the shamrock. Those are very superficial. Never use them. This may be the reason why the cliched phrases are all over the place. Instead, try using deeper associations like level 2 associations. If you think of a car, level 1 association is a tire, but level 2 associations are the ones from tire. And tire is rubber, road, studded tires, circumference, something round, or maybe change, which is not a very obvious one. So use level 2 and further associations instead of level 1 associations. It'll help your lyrics to be less obvious. The idea here is pretty simple. To find a keeper, dig deep. Sin number 4 is when there's no storytelling or dynamics whatsoever. When verse 1 tells you about the love, and verse 2 tells you about the love, and nothing changes. It just uses different wording to convey the same message. There's no growth, there's no decline, there's no character development. Instead, you might want to think of how the love progresses along the verses. If in verse 1 it's like, we met and I fell in love with you, verse 2 could be, we grew on each other and became indispensable. And verse 3 could be a breakup. But that's like a literal story. It doesn't always happen like that. Instead, you could use what's called gradation, scaling the love across verses. If in verse 1 it's love you can't live without, in verse 2 it can be love that makes you die and reborn again. And in verse 3, you can either expand that or shrink it drastically. So there's still some change along the verses. Not saying I love you like this, I love you like that, and I love you like something else. Make it grow, make it fall, or make it wavy. And remember, no rise and fall makes the lyrics stall. Sin number 5 is when you have core control over your syllabic structures. You've seen it multiple times and we see it every day in every big hit. It's very, very rare when the artist is capable of really controlling those syllables. And the idea is not to have everything like square and even. It's not about making the lyrics look like poetry. It's all about establishing patterns you can play around with. If the lyrics are all over the place, if line 1 has like 7 syllables, the line 2 has like 8, and line 3 has 2, and line 4 has 5, there's no pattern. You can't play with it. But if there's some evenness going on, anything odd, anything out of place will instantly draw the listener's attention to it. And that's the way you manipulate the attention. It's all about creating patterns and then breaking them. But you can't break a pattern that's broken all over the place. Hence, you need to have a lot of control over your syllabic structures. And the cure here is normally editing. Just edit your lyrics to the point where there's something to play around with. In other words, mind the beat and keep it neat. Sin number 6 is when you have strong ideas in weak positions. We've already talked about it a little bit. When you come up with your ideas and you put them in the end and then rhyme backwards, but that putting something in the end is exactly what you do. You put something in a strong position because it's where the attention of the listener is on top. The attention reaches its maximum to this point. It's like the very, very last word spoken before the chorus, or the very, very last word in the chorus itself. The closer to the end, the stronger the position. And if you have a punchline, put it in the end, like the very last line of the verse. If you have multiple punchlines, put them as close to the end of the lines as possible. Think of a joke you know well. Think of its punchline. If you give the punchline away very early on in the joke starts to make no sense. That's the idea of it, because the punchline needs to be in the strong position in the very, very end. So remember, prime lines need prime time. Put them in strong position. Sin number 7 is probably my favorite one. It's when you rely solely on inspiration. And that's the mistake like literally everybody makes. You have no process, you have nothing. You just stare at a blank page and you don't know what to write about. And that's in many cases when the whole lyrics writing story ends for many people. It's something people can't overcome. You just wait for things to hit you. You just wait for inspiration to spark. And it's not how it works. Of course, if you have a spontaneous idea, it's always good to put it down. But it's not very useful to rely on something spontaneous. Instead, you might want to establish a routine, a process that works every single time. And the process is, once you know the topic, build associations. Find nice associations and punchlines and put them in strong positions, and then rhyme backwards and fill the rest of the lines. That's the process behind it. Works very nice, and I keep mentioning it like in every single video on this channel. And by the way, there's plenty more specific examples of how to write song lyrics, with me actually writing the lyrics, with me redoing some lyrics, with me breaking down somebody else's lyrics. So feel free to browse the channel. I promise you're gonna like it. But relying on inspiration is absolutely a sin. And as I've said, the secret sauce is stick to the process. Let's do a little recap. Sin number 1 is clichéd phrases, and if you've heard it before, use it no more. Sin number 2 is avoiding the clichéd phrases and not using them in a creative context. Sin number 3 is when you rhyme forward, and you should be rhyming backward. Remember, first the line, then the rhyme. The next one is using level 1 associations. To find a keeper, dig deeper. Another sin is no dynamics in your storytelling. No rise or fall makes the lyrics stall. Sin number 5 is having very, very little control over your syllables. Mind the beat, keep it neat. Sin number 6 is when you put strong ideas in weak positions. Remember, prime lines need prime time, as close to the end as possible. And last but not least is relying only on inspiration. And here the secret sauce is stick to the process. If you happen to know any more of them sins, or if you disagree with something, please let me know in the comments. We might want to make another video around that. And thank you for watching the video till the very, very end and not skipping any bit of it. It lets YouTube know the video is interesting, especially if you subscribe to the channel while watching it. And most importantly, it makes me happy. And while you're subscribing, please like the video if you have a heart. I hope the video is useful and you can use some of those ideas in your own lyrics writing because you're awesome. Yes, you are.